Welcome to the Sustainability Nugget podcast. I am Rarasu Maraibi.
And I'm Tosin Folorunsho.
On this podcast, we learn about sustainability by discussing various related topics while focusing on three pillars: the economy, the society, and the environment. Hello guys, welcome back to another episode on the Sustainability Nugget podcast. Today I'm in Philadelphia with Jody Spangler of Adragone Aeroponics, and we're going to be learning more about aeroponics today while Jody walks us through Adragone Aeroponics system. Stay tuned. Jody, could you provide an overview of what aeroponics is and how it differs from traditional farming methods?
Traditional farming methods, of course, are outdoors. This is an indoor system that creates a closed environment. We call it CEA, or Closed Environment Agriculture. What it does, in effect, is keep the weather outdoors, so we can control whether we're going to be cooler or warmer or what the plants really need. So we bring the walls indoor and we plant vertically, so we use up all the space. A lot of times people think of it as a hydroponic type system. Hydroponics is really out on a table this way, and we go straight up. As you can see, we go up. What that does for us is changes the amount of water that we have to continuously use. In hydroponics, it's a continuous, always flowing back and forth. Here, we just simply water twice a day, for a minute to 3 minutes, depending on the plant size and where they are in their growth. That's two of the really huge differences: is the amount of electricity that we use, the amount of land we use, and the amount of water, which are all minimal. We actually use 1/10 of the water that they would use out on the ground. Typically, a head of lettuce will cost about 50 gallons of water out on the ground, and here I can get a full growth of 566 plants using 60 gallons of water for the entire 12 weeks.
Can we walk through your system?
Sure. Here we go. So this is our first wall that I ever had. So all of what you're going to see right now are prototypes. They were how we've come and developed the system that we use currently. So this is my ancient Swiss chard. And you can see the colors really pop, and they're very, very flavorful, and we eat the stem all the way down. A lot of times, by the time you get it, the farmer's grown it out to this size so that they can make more money per pound. So what we do is we harvest continuously over 12, some of these are about 45 or 60 weeks, depending on which plant it is. So I've harvested some of these for over a year. So I'm getting a continuous return on my plant. That way I'm not worried about the poundage and how much I'm sending out every week to make money, because I'm already saving on electricity and water and all the things that I would normally have to use as my overhead. We're going a lot less. This is Swiss chard. As I said, some of it's over a year old. And if you look at it very closely, on some of it, you can see that they've got a very, very long stem, like in this little section here. These are all the ones that I've already harvested off. So, and this is the new growth from last Thursday. So it's a couple of days of growth, and this big leaf grew up, and I'll harvest that next week.
Where did your passion stem from? Why did you decide to go into this?
A long while back, my grandparents bought a big farm out here in Chester County, and they were not farmers. They sold half to an actual farmer. He lives across the other side of the street. We live on this side. But I wanted to keep the idea of farming alive for my grandkids, so that if they choose and they want to be farmers or make money somehow in agriculture, this would be a way for them to do it on a very minimal amount of ground and using very little of the ever dwindling resources that we have. That passion is just basically to keep the farm going for the kids. In this section of my grow, I grow nasturtiums. The flowers and the leaves are all edible. I only grow edible things in here. I don't grow things people do, but I don't. And then I have all kind of herbs right here in the wall next to this. And at this point, we're kind of slowing down for summer, because this is basically a very agricultural area, and a lot of people don't order their CSAs over the summer. So I'm sort of winding down for summer. I usually take a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks off in the middle of the summer, and then we plant very hard in August so that by the time September rolls around and everybody else's garden is gone, ours is still growing, and we'll run right through the winter with all fresh vegetables and things. So we can take it to our CSA customers and my farm stores that I deliver to.
Okay, so I know you mentioned like you use less water, less electricity. Does that make your product more like cheaper than?
It can.
Okay.
Yes, if I was in a large production thing, yes, it would be less expensive. Basically, my big expense would be 1 day a week when I'm doing harvest, because I can do this by myself. But if I was doing a lot more walls, then I would need to have someone come in and harvest. Otherwise, it literally takes 4 to 5 hours every day for one person, 2 if you're huge, and then maybe 3 or 4 people to harvest out. So yes, we do save money in that respect also.
What's the relationship with climate change? Does this really help fight against climate change?
When you live in an environment where there is almost no water or very, very little water, yes, because it doesn't take the amount of water to grow things that it would if you were outside or even in a greenhouse, because a greenhouse has a lot of evaporation. In here, I don't get that evaporation. You have a mini split system that keeps it at an even temperature. So what that does for the plant is they know it's going to be this temperature. They uptake what water they need, and we don't waste it into the atmosphere. So yes, that's why we chose to go indoors. Now this is inside a shipping container. We have other buildings. We can retrofit a building if you have one already, or we have more tunnels available if you want to put up a permanent base. It's basically a big round oval covered structure. You can cover it with whatever material you have at hand to keep it very temperature controlled anyway.
So are there like restrictions to the type of plants you can actually?
At this point, the only restriction is that we don't grow big woody things like bushes or tree type things in, because the cups are small. The newer system that we have coming out will take up to a 4-inch coconut coir pot, so that we can grow things like blueberry bushes and other slightly woodier product that I do in here. I do things like strawberries and all the herbs, many lettuces, cucumbers, things on vines. I don't have any growing right this minute, but we'll do squash and vines and pumpkins and things all like that inside here in the smaller cups. But the bigger cups we're going to make newer system.
What's this?
Those are seeds. There'll be flowers or peppers or something to go out in the garden.
Oh, okay. Not to go here. That's more about
that. All right, that is a bin that we use, prototype bin. The new design is a little different than that, but it is really designed for larger plants like tomatoes and potatoes, especially in the far northern climate of Canada, up by the tundra. They really have a 6-week total growing season. Potatoes take 6 weeks just to get their plants up and get started, and then they take another 10 to 12 weeks depending on the variety that you're growing. So if we put potatoes into the bin and make the bin their holder, we can grow plants for the potatoes year round. So that will help cut costs of importing potatoes from California or Mexico up to the upper reaches of Canada, or into the Yukon or anywhere, even Alaska. So if you have to import all your vegetables, of course, you've got all your grow costs and then your shipping costs and your importing fees and a lot of other things. In one of the villages up on the tundra, a small round watermelon will cost $75. So for us, we growl when they're $3 and $4. They need a system to be able to grow things like potatoes and squashes and things that take longer periods of time. So that's what the bin's about. That was a project that we're still just about finished with. I don't have a new one yet, but that's the prototype of what we started with. All right, let's see. So over here, there's some different things. This is a newer planting system, what we call a cutting celery. Some of this celery I've had for 6 or 8 months, and we just harvest the larger type, longer pieces of cutting celery. Now it doesn't get as big as what you buy in the grocery store, but this has more celery flavor. And if you ever buy celery flakes, that's what this is. I particularly like it in like egg salad and things because it's so tiny and you can chop very, very fine.
So is it like the species, or is because it's being grown?
No, it's the kind that it is.
Okay.
I could grow celery in here if I wanted to. I just personally don't like celery, so I just don't grow it because I don't like it. And if it's left over after CSA and they don't buy it at the farm store, then I have to use it somehow. That's my own particular thing, not necessarily what other people are going to do, but that's me because I don't want to have to use something that I don't like. So we do celery. These plants are just getting started. So you can see this type of lettuce has grown out a little more than these other lettuces that are just coming up. So these are brand new thing. We plant directly into the cup, and then the cup goes directly in the wall. So I don't have to waste time growing here, space growing over here, and then putting it in the wall. Some people do that. The guys who are doing strictly basil do. They will move it from a wall where they planted to a wall where it's grown, and then out to the grocery stores. That's their model of how they're going to grow things. My model is more for the CSA, and I grow out my vegetables. CSA, it means Community Sustained Agriculture.
Okay.
So people will come and say, yes, I want to buy a share. They put the money up front. That gives me a little bit of capital to buy seeds and the things, the minerals that I put in and all that kind of thing. So that way they know they're going to get something, and I know I have a little money to buy the things I need to grow.
Okay.
And they're all willing to eat whatever I grow. That's what CSA is.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
When you're planting, or when you're in your system, you just literally plant the seed in these planters and put it straight to the system. There's no wait period.
Correct. We do have a special protocol that we follow when we're doing that, but that's really just what we do.
Can you tell us about the role of automation in optimizing your plant growth and also managing your resources?
Okay, we optimize our plant growth and roots by specific watering amounts and times, and monitoring pH, which is what's in your water, and your EC, which means electric conductivity. It just means the amount of mineral salts that's in the water. So we monitor all those things. I used to do it on a daily basis, but I find I don't really need to. So in that case, again, we're saving a little bit of labor time by not having to do all those things every day. Once a week's plenty on this, because the lighting that we use keeps our pH and EC right about optimal level for those things. So if you want to move down to the next wall, I'll show you how it's automated.
Okay.
All right. So this is not completely planted out for a reason. So what we do in here, and you'll see these are little tiny kale plants here, all these little tiny kales. We put in 2 seeds, and if 2 seeds come up, because again, seeds are, not always viable. You don't always get full growth out of every seed. When there's 2, we will take one of the seeds out, put it in a different cup, and finish filling the wall. Tomorrow or Monday, probably on Monday, we'll do that. We'll transplant all the seeds that have 2 into, and then we'll have a full door of the plants. So this is how we get started. These are all new seeded projects here, lettuces and kales. So on this particular wall, you can see we have an automated timer and things like that.
Control,
Yeah. I can do on my phone is I go in and I say, okay, this is wall B1. So I'll go in and I'll find B1 and I'll say, all right, I want to up the watering because my plants are in bigger growth. So I can put it up to half a minute 4 times a day, or I can use 1 minute twice a day, whatever I want to do. It literally will go from 1 minute to an hour at a time. I've never ever watered more than 30 seconds because it waters so efficiently. The water is pumped up through the side here, across the top through the hose that you can see just sort of peeking up there into the center, and then it comes back over each wall. If I want to test it, I simply have to push the button and it will come on, and you'll be able to see the water dripping down through. So it drips from the top up here down each cup, and then it wraps around each cup, waters the cups, and gives the maximum amount of water. So we use a coconut core in the cup, and what the coconut core does is it absorbs enough water that it will hold the plant at optimal moisture on its roots so that we don't have to come and water 57 times a day. So that's one of the advantages. And the other advantage to coconut core is that it's recycled and recyclable. So it comes off the outer shell of the coconut, it's shredded, we use it, it gets the minerals, deposits into it, grows my plants, and when we're finished with it, then we compost it. And then my husband uses it on the outdoor gardens. So it works all the way around. It's very, very good. Root system on a hydroponic plant normally will get anywhere from 3 to 4 feet long because the water's rushing over it all the time, and the plants are trying to absorb their minerals. So they put out more root so they can absorb minerals. I don't eat the root. Do you eat the root? No, most people don't. So we like it so that we have really small roots. It does really well in the coconut cup because it's moisture. The plant doesn't have to look for its minerals and things in the water. We get better growth, we get better nutrition, and it grows faster for us, so we don't have to do that. Oh, that'll do. All right, so you'll see this is an older plant, and you'll see that we have very tiny roots right here. And that's about the most root we'll get on a plant.
I want to confirm when you say you use is it the coconut ox? Are you talking about this part?
All right, yes. This is actually called a Jiffy pot, which is a combination of recycled materials and coconut core, again, that's been smashed into a mold and dried. And then we put coconut core itself inside here. I can show you those when we go out the other side. Even the tomatoes in coconut core, when they're not in the wall, their root system's only this big. And I had tomatoes all winter on big tall plants, but the root systems were very small because the coconut core keeps them optimal.
So what do you use for fertilizer?
We don't actually use a fertilizer. Ideally, we're working towards using the biodigestate that we make ourselves with the biodigester. That has a little bit of fine tuning, and we need the lab to tell us exactly what goes in it. So we're working on that. It's not quite done yet. At this point, I just use a commercially purchased hydroponic type of mineral system. So they call it a 2-part mineral system, an A and a B, and we just use that.
So the lights on real land, they need the sun for photosynthesis. Is that what this light provides also?
Yes, these are particularly adjusted to the light spectrum that the plants need. This particular ones are the older style that we're not going to use. The ones behind me are newer, and they're particularly designed so that they can be adjusted. Each light color can be adjusted. So if I'm going to grow, for instance, strawberries, they don't need as much of the red to grow the green as the lettuces do. So I could adjust it just for the strawberries. So there's some trade-offs, but yes, they mimic every light spectrum up through far red. So you have infrared, you have red, infrared, and far red. So they include all of those light colors. Ideally, what the newer ones will do is, instead of going peaks like that of light, we're just going to do little peaks like this. This is why our plants grow so quickly, and I harvest week to week. I harvest all the plants every week.
Okay.
So it's amazing to see. If people can't quite get the concept that I can do it every week until they see it.
When you say every week,
Every Thursday, we come in here, we cut off all the big leaves and down to, what do we leave? Married 3 leaves, 3 little tiny
and it grows back
big
again
leaves.
with it.
And by the next week, it's back where we can harvest it again.
In comparison to like traditional,
Traditionally,
how long does it take?
Traditionally, you'll grow your seed, you'll put it outside, you'll let it grow out there for 10 to 12 weeks, depending on the type of lettuce that you're growing. And I'm only talking lettuce, I'm not talking other stuff.
Yeah.
To get lettuce, it normally grows out like this. It'll be this big when they harvest it. Then when they cut it off, or slaughter cut, as we call it, they just slaughter the whole thing. They take the outside leaves off, so now it's shrunk a little bit. And then it goes into a truck and it gets bruised, and they take those leaves off. And then it goes through the processing plant and they take those leaves off. So now you've gone from something this large down to what you see in the grocery store for, whatever. So they've wasted half of their growth. I don't do that. We harvest, we let it grow, we harvest, we let it grow, we let it. So we get a lot more product eventually over the same 12 to 15 weeks, depending on the lettuce, as they do slaughter cutting. Because now they've wasted all the water that they put on it, and all the fertilizer that they put on it, and all the people that weed it and do all those things. So there's their cost up, where we're not doing that. So basically, like I said, our biggest day of the week for labor is Thursdays when we harvest.
So in terms of long-term sustainability and scalability, how does Adragone Aeroponic envision its role in providing fresh, healthy food while minimizing environmental impact?
All right, as you've seen through all the whole process that we're doing, by using the recycled coconut and all the things, and the fact that we recycle the cups and the water is recycled, I use so much less water. We're already doing that. Our hope here is that people will come and see this and say, oh great, this is going to be fabulous, we want to try it. That's our ultimate goal, is to get other people to do the same thing. Because on the newer wall where I can adjust the watering time, I really put in both sides of the wall 566 plants, and I used 60 gallons of water for the entire grow of 12 weeks, which most people can't do that. The other thing that's very advantageous to this type of system is if I have a pump go out, it doesn't affect my entire system. It only affects one wall. That in itself will help with the sustainability of providing food.
If you can give one advice to someone anywhere in the world that wants to start their own aeroponic system, what will it be?
Find somebody who knows what they're doing. Research your systems, because not all systems are the same, and make sure that your lighting is spot on. If it's not perfect lighting, you won't get the growth and return like we're getting. Actually, on our 4th evolution of lighting, which we finally have found a better grow light, is the one that is adjustable to the plants themselves, and it really makes optimal growth on most of the plants. It's very, very helpful having the correct lighting.
Thank you, Jody, for taking us through your system and making
welcome.
us learn more about aeroponics. I'll be leaving your details down in the show notes and the website to Adragone Aeroponics in case anyone wants to reach out. So yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for listening to the Sustainability Nuggets podcast. I am Rarisu Maribi.
And I am Tosin Folorunsho. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating and review on wherever you listen to your podcast.
You can also show your support by signing up for a small donation to help sustain future episodes. You can find all relevant links in the description. See you in our next episode.